Before he read the big, beautiful bill.
I bet y'all don't think Donald Trump's a liar now. No taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security passed the House today with flying colors. Thank you, Donald Trump. Bless y'all's heart. Y'all are some fucking stupid people.
And this is after.
Then you turn around and pass the bill and it's a crock of shit. Of course, when you put it in big, bold, beautiful letters, it looks great. We're going to vote for you. And you knew what you were doing. No taxes on overtime. You didn't give no fucking details. Your details that we read ain't worth a flying fuck. A lot of people go off what Donald Trump says. We're not going to go read the shit.
And what have we learned, Lucas? Please tell me that you guys have learned something from this. Every sentence that comes out of Trump's mouth is either highly exaggerated or just completely made up. Like, for instance, these last couple weeks, he's been saying, we have to pass my big, beautiful bill, or everyone's taxes are going to go up by 67%. No, that's not at all what would have happened. He just makes shit up. And this is what we don't understand about you guys, Lucas, is you guys are over there being like, we can't trust the lying media. We can only trust this one man who never tells the truth.
Taxes in the form of credits and deductions. 2, Medicaid. 3, SNAP or food stamp benefits. 4, federal student loans. And 5, immigration, plus a few miscellaneous. Let's start with the changes to the tax code. That is the bulk of this bill. You will notice a theme that these changes tend to mainly benefit middle and higher income earners. First and foremost, the bill makes permanent the cuts of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017, passed during Trump's first term. So those tax brackets would remain in place and change for inflation moving forward. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as a reminder, lowered the tax rate for all Americans except the lowest wage earners. The bill creates a new type of savings account. It expands 529 college savings accounts, which low-income Americans generally don't use, and creates Trump accounts. The government will deposit $1,000 into your Trump account as an incentive for having a baby. So you have a baby, you get $1,000. And then taxpayers can add up to $5,000 per year that will grow tax-free until the beneficiary, the baby, withdraws the money at 18 or older. According to the Tax Foundation, quote, the major effect is to introduce a new baby bonus entitlement that requires taxpayers to track yet another small dollar account for 18 plus years. This is a missed opportunity to simplify saving and improve financial security for all Americans. There would also be a new $35 co-payment charge to patients using Medicaid services. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that 12 million Americans would lose insurance by 2034 under the big, beautiful bill. Another major change is that food stamp or SNAP benefits will be reduced. The Congressional Budget Office estimates around 40 million people may have their SNAP benefits affected by these cuts, including 16 million children. The bill requires states to make up the difference in the budget cuts. Typically, SNAP is 100% federally funded. There would also be new work requirements for SNAP. SNAP already has some work requirements, but it would require recipients aged 55 to 64 to be working in order to receive benefits, as well as requiring parents with children 14 and over to work. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, about 600,000 low-income households would see their SNAP benefits cut by an average of $100 per month. The average household receives about $320 per month currently, so that's a reduction in their food budget by, on average, about a third, at the same time that prices everywhere are skyrocketing. The bill creates caps on how much money students can borrow. It puts a lifetime borrowing limit of about $250,000. It caps parent borrowing through Parent Plus loan at $20,000 per year with a $65,000 lifetime limit. It eliminates Grad Plus loans, caps unsubsidized loans for grad students at $20,500 per year and $100,000 lifetime, though professional degrees like medical and legal degrees get up to $50,000 per year with a $200,000 lifetime cap.
If you look at the numbers, that's just enough money for you to be able to maybe squeeze through going to a regular school, right? But what you cannot do is cross over in classes. That's what I've realized about this student loan bill. What it's really, really doing is making sure to keep the classes more segregated, more separated. If you're wanting to go to a more prominent school or school that's marketed only for the wealthy or only for the smartest or only for the best, a school that's marketed in that way, you're going to have to pay top dollar to go to that school. What people have been doing is they've been taking out loans in order to go to schools like Harvard, for example. They've been taking out loans in order to go to these really, really expensive schools, especially because their parents can't afford it. How else would they pay for it? And by doing that, they're able to cross over to the next social class, okay, by going to said school. Because when you go to that school, you're also going to meet who? Well, the kids of the wealthy. So now you are in networking distance, direct contact with the next social class. Okay. So what they're doing with this bill is further constricting the regular people to make sure that you don't cross over classes and to make sure that the rich stay further separated from the regular people. Basically making sure to keep you and your generations exactly where you are. Okay. If you're in the middle class, that's where you're going to stay. If you are poor, that's where you're going to stay. They're trying to make sure that less and less people are able to cross over, build wealth. They're just trying to make sure to keep people in poverty, basically. That's basically what it comes down to. Because if you're not able to cross over to the next class, then you have less opportunities. Even the middle class, if you have ambitions of doing more, going beyond the middle class, you don't want to just go to a regular school. Well, tough luck. You're not going to be able to do that simply by taking out a bunch of loans. Okay. So what they're doing is further restricting the classes and further separating the classes and dividing the people. That's what I see when it comes to this educational aspect or limitations that they've put on the educational aspects of this bill. Now, I always tell people, to me, it's not worth it if you're going to go to school and just end up with a bunch of debt. I went to school all the way, got my PhD, zero debt. I paid along the way. I didn't even, I paid as I went because I worked at the same time. Okay. So I chose a different way of going about it. Okay. I don't have no student loans, no student debt, nothing. And I have several vehicles all paid for. Okay. I have my home. I literally watched fireworks from my backyard. I could see the fireworks. It was like they were doing it literally from my backyard. So you can still do it. But if you're wanting to cross over, if you're wanting to cross over to the wealthy class, what you'll need is networking. What you need is to be able to network within that social group. So what they've done is they've cut you off. They've prevented you from being able to do that even further, because used to be you could just take out the loans and that would automatically put you in the vicinity of the wealthy. Okay. And just by being in the vicinity of the wealthy, you're like a million times more likely to become wealthy yourself because you have a million more opportunities just walking around you, literally, right?
The only people who are losing Medicaid are the people who are working less than 80 hours per month, who are fully able to go to work every day, who don't have any dependents. Those are the only people who are losing.
You're either lying or you've been lied to. There's only about 4 million people that meet that criteria, and it's expected that around 12 million people are going to lose Medicaid. First off, it's not just work requirements being added. There is nearly $1 trillion in cuts that are going to happen, which just so happen to line up perfectly with the around $1 trillion in tax cuts for the wealthy. Over the next 10 years, it's expected there's going to be like 17 million less people insured over that time period because of this. Cutting that much from Medicaid just means less people are going to be able to be enrolled. Let's talk about those work requirements, because that has been tried in one state, and that is Georgia, and it has been a disaster. Expanding Medicaid has so many benefits. First off, it costs a little over $400 per person for expansion of Medicaid. More people get insured, especially low income. There's better outcomes, lower mortality, fewer chronic issues. There's more preventative care. It reduces racial disparities in healthcare. It brings billions of dollars into state economies. It produces job growth in the healthcare sector. It supports rural hospitals. There's less medical debt for families. It cuts down on uncompensated healthcare costs. It frees up funds for other services. It can create net savings for states. It reduces poverty and stress. It helps people stay employed, and children benefit when their parents are insured. Overall, it's a net positive all around. In Georgia, though, because of the administrative stuff that went along with all these extra requirements, it cost around $13,000 per person. And out of 240,000 people who were eligible to enroll, only 7,500 people did. And the majority of people who didn't enroll, it wasn't because they, didn't meet the requirements. They did. The process was just too complicated for them, or they didn't fill out a paperwork right or something like that. It didn't cause people to work more. There was no meaningful increase in employment. Vulnerable people were the most hard hit. Older adults, unpaid caregivers, disabled people, all struggled to meet the requirements. 90% of the budget went toward administrative cost. 10% went towards healthcare. That is absurd. They started this in 2023 and they've already started cutting back on this program because of what a disaster and how expensive it has been. And it is a warning for implementing this kind of thing nationwide. It's not going to go well. It puts a lot of strain on hospitals as well, especially rural hospitals. It's expected that there's going to be a lot of rural hospitals that are going to have to close down because of this. So just admit that you want to be less efficient and spend more money to keep more people off of insurance because you think they don't deserve it. And just
I was thinking to myself, who's going to pay all these people to be checking these things on a regular basis, especially for Medicare? They are going to check to make sure that you still qualify every 6 months as opposed to every 12 months. And I thought to myself, who is going to do that? You're going to have to hire more people in order to actually be able to implement this. So it's going to end up costing you who knows how much just to implement these things that you're putting in place, right? But I guess that could just be at the beginning. It's probably just going to cost them more at the beginning. And as people get caught off and the process gets more streamlined, then they will reduce their costs again and could potentially maybe even reduce it more. So from a business perspective, that could be how they're looking at it, because I was thinking that's going to increase your costs. It doesn't make sense. And I'm thinking, then I think about it a little bit more and I'm thinking, oh, well, from a business perspective, it kind of does make sense because over time, the cost will go down, right? So y'all, this is the thing. This is what they voted for. On
the bill, on this new big, beautiful shovel, I call it, because you're digging a bigger hole for yourself in debt. Big, beautiful shovel. SALT deductions back up to $40,000, $500,000 in income, child tax credits doubled. There's a senior bonus deduction for people receiving Social Security benefits. Some good there. Definitely everyone knows about the Medicaid cuts. It's going to be more work requirements, so on and so forth. SNAP's going to be cut. Trump's using some of the savings on the cuts that he's doing for his child savings accounts, that $1,000 you can match tax-free. Mm-hmm. Student loans, no question, we knew that was coming. Lower limits, less benefits for student loans. They're going to give some sort of weird car loan interest deduction. I don't know how that works. It's some details on that. No tax on tip income. Also like a holiday on taxing overtime pay. So people want to look on details in that for those people who do a lot of OT in their job. And the EV tax credits are going away for the homes, the cars, and they're trying to pull back a lot of the Inflation Reduction Act, that RIA thing, is going to be scaled back.
Sorry, Elon.
Yeah. And pretty much what he said, he didn't care.
What does this mean for the economy? Is this a good thing?
I don't know. You never know how these things work. Once they go in there, they're full of pork, they're full of fat or whatever. I don't know. I really don't know. You got to see how it pans out. But, seems to be a consensus. It's going to, cause a few $1 trillion worth in the deficit. And to me, from a macro generalist level, that's not a good thing. Republicans supposed to be smaller government, more responsible fiscal spending. It's like, yeah, smaller government maybe, but freaking going like irresponsible fiscal spending, if you ask me. Because these tax cuts aren't really cuts, they're just extension of what was there. But they didn't come to the table and adjust things around, And it's I get it because it's kind of like a no-win situation. You get 85% of our freaking budget is law, Social Security, Medicare, whatnot.
Right.
So it's the extra spending on defense and immigration and stuff like that. I think is where maybe there's a little bit more responsible. I don't know. I'm not. Who knows? I'm no authority on this, but I just, like I said, I don't like the idea that you're adding, a few $1 trillion to the deficit. That to me is the biggest problem.
I just kept thinking, what a waste of money. I just kept thinking, you're just wasting money. Like literally, he even assigned quite a sum of money to his wall so that he can continue building this wall. I mean, it's just like throwing money away left, right, center. It's just like a complete waste of money, Now, as far as the people that are going to be footing that bill, of course, it's going to be the poor amongst society. But the thing about poverty is when you're poor, you don't know what not being poor looks like from a psychological level. So I think they're going to get away with it. I think they're going to get away with it scot-free because the poor that are being affected by this are not really going to know, especially over time, what the difference is anyway. Okay. Because you don't know what a better life looks like, what it tastes like, right? So all these little, oh, here, have a lollipop, right? While I totally screw you over, that it's going to work, like, oh, we'll give you $1,000 if you put it in a Trump account. Y'all, they're literally telling you what they're going to be doing with that money. You put your money in here, match the money that we put in here, and we'll start you off with $1,000. And they're literally telling you, they called it the Trump account. They're going to be using your money to make more money and get themselves richer. They're literally telling you what they're going to be using that money for. And you're not going to have any access to it. You're not going to be able to get it out. Maybe your kid will be able to get it out if he's still alive by the age of 18 or who knows what. I'm thinking, what? There's so many other accounts you could start that would give you the same benefit. Why in the world would you open an account that you have no control over? You don't even have access of your own money. You're literally giving your money away willingly. Girl, it's insane. This is wild. But I bet you a lot of poor people will do it because of the lack of education, the lack of cognitive processing. Just it's psychological. It's all a psychological game. Right.
Republican House has now passed the big, beautiful bill, which some have called the worst bill in American history. Democratic leader Jeffries essentially filibustered the bill, breaking the record for it today. A bill that you have experts saying is likely going to kill thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, by kicking them off of Medicaid and killing food assistance to the poor. It'll also strip health care and food from millions of kids. And that, as it'll give, I assume, many are saying act like a secret police, a budget bigger than the Marines. I mean, it's bigger than most of the world's militaries. But some, going even further, saying it looks like they're setting up a Gestapo-like force and that they're grooming ICE to be a Russian or Chinese-style disappearance force for critics of Trump. But as far as the here and now, yesterday, there were Republican holdouts. And now those holdouts, they're justifying their betrayal of their constituents by saying that Trump will executive order parts of the bill to fix the flaws in it. But Trump can't executive order Medicaid, right? He can't magically create Medicaid funding. The bill also puts work requirements on Medicaid. And as we've seen in southern states, putting work requirements on Medicaid doesn't reduce the unemployment rate. It just takes healthcare away from people. And reportedly, when you have work requirements on Medicaid, people have to fill out at least 16 forms and reports a year. And what ends up actually happening is that working people just can't keep up with the paperwork, and they and their kids sometimes end up losing healthcare.